Today on the podcast, what we really wanted to talk about was there's this big story that the information broke. For those that don't know, the information is one of my personal favorite tech journals because I swear they just always have the inside scoop on like everything happening in like specifically AI stories. So they recently broke a story where they said essentially Google Gemini is kind of this fabled competitor or killer. A killer, it's hard to call anything a competitor when or a killer when it hasn't been released. It's kind of behind. But anyways, Google Gemini, it's supposed to compete with GPT-4. It's supposed to be Google's response to it because they have Bard and they got other tools, but they're kind of for OpenAI's older stuff, and OpenAI keeps releasing new stuff. So Gemini is supposed to, people are expecting it to come out this quarter. And the information just broke the story that it has been delayed. Apparently, a bunch of people that corporations that are working with Google that are like, hey, Google, can we get some of that? Because Google makes like special deals, and then these people probably feel like they're betraying Google's trust by going and jumping on OpenAI or Microsoft stuff. And anyways, so there's a bunch of people that were supposed to get access to Gemini, and they're like, hey, when's it coming? And apparently Google told them, actually expect it in Q1 of next year. So Connor, what's your opinions and thoughts on this GPT-4 Challenger being delayed?
Yeah, okay, so you're exactly right, right? Like, so Gemini is supposed to be the thing coming down. Everybody's like, "Oh, but just wait for this, and then it's gonna be the GPT-4 killer." And with every day that this is delayed, first of all, the expectations just level up and level up, right? People are just expecting Google to be this sort of the steamroller that rolls over everything. I mean, even when Bing, kind of erupted with sort of essentially like an OpenAI source so you could chat with it and all that kind of stuff. Even then, I think that their percentage of search only went up by like 1% or something like that, right? Google is
Yeah.
huge. We don't have to sell anybody on what Google is. My issue with this is, and I'm sure Gemini will be great. My issue with this is that I just haven't seen anything great come out of Google these days, right? I mean, like, and so we go back to when Bard came out, total disaster. It gets everything
Yeah.
wrong. I think they lost, 9 figures or whatever off their share price or something like that. So
Yeah,
that's like,
$100 billion
oh my
wiped off the
god! I
share.
mean, unbelievable, right? So that's just like wiped out overnight just because like people are like, "What?" Now, then you're like, "Oh, well, that was just a little glitch in the demo." I totally get that. But Bard never really got better. Bard never made a compelling case.
I
And then
don't feel like Bard has product market fit.
I
So,
mean, come on, Jane. Like you already have Google search. We have Bard. We have all these other competitors, right? So I feel like on that front, Google didn't do well. And then you have Google Labs, which I was really excited about. Started to integrate
mhm.
things into tools, kind of like what Microsoft Copilot did.
Yeah.
That wasn't that great. So now with Gemini, I'm just like the expectations. It's like, okay, we'll wait, but boy, the expectations are so high. What do you think that does to Google?
Yeah, I think Google's in a tricky position. I think they know they're in a tricky position. They've known it since the beginning of the year, and the thing is, well, Google's kind of in this phase, like, at the beginning of the year, they had their big code red, we have to catch up to ChatGPT, like, by our big thing, and they pushed every department. They just pushed everything towards AI. Um, then they did their big announcements, but it was catch up. They're like, okay, here's all the things we did, and it's like cool. Some of them are like great, like, but OpenAI's like, great, now we got our demo day and we're ahead of you again, and now you got to catch up again, and now we're ahead of you again. Like, this is not going to end unless Google makes a drastic step to get ahead of OpenAI. But OpenAI is like on the cutting edge. They've been building out for years. They've been focusing on their roadmap. Like, they know where they're going with this, and I think they're a very small, nimble, dedicated team. It's hard to compete with that with a big company. And Google, to their credit, they're pushing the throttle forward. They got the OG Google founders, Sergey, back in the house, cracking the whip on everything AI related. But like, at the end of the day, it's a big company. It's hard to make these pivots. It's hard to move fast. They have a lot of risk if they screw something up like they did with their product launch. $100 billion gets wiped off. So Google's in a tricky position, I'll say. That being said, they're they're not they're obviously not dead. Like, OpenAI didn't kill them. I think they're still a solid company. I would be curious though to see if they have lost like search volume because of ChatGPT. Like, I have to think they will. I was recently talking to a friend. Oh yeah, this was so interesting. And yesterday he messaged me and he was like, dude, look what I just did. And he like took a screenshot. He had to get new. He's in a cold part of America, and he's got to get new winter tires. Took a screenshot of 2 tires at Costco or Walmart or something. Upload them, and it's like, hey, give me like the online sentiment regarding each of these like winter tires. And it was just like it is their vision thing, right? And he has like screenshots, and it gave the most elaborate like roundup on that, where it was like, okay, so like most people are saying this tire is really good for snow, but it's not good for wet. This other one's better for wet. This one has a 94% like rating when it comes to the snow category on this website. It was like citing the sources, but it was like the most clear breakdown. And by the end of it, like he lives somewhere with a lot of snow and it's already snowing. So like he has to get the one that's got like one of them's like rated 96% for snow and the other one's like 90% for snow. Okay, so that's a clear. You go with the one that's got the 90%. Anyways, I was just like so fascinated by his breakdown on that I like
Mhm.
started typing in like other, like I kind of have these like, okay, I need to buy this thing at some point, but I can't buy it because it's like a big purchase or an important purchase. And I can't buy it until I go and do go down a black hole or like go down a rabbit hole of research around that product.
Yep.
And that usually involves for me, like my research process is like go on YouTube, watch like 3 20-minute videos of someone saying everything you need to know about the topic. And then I'm like, okay, I'm an expert on like, when I like bought my wife's wedding ring, by the end of like my research phase on that, I was like, I'm an expert on like diamonds. Like I know everything about the clarity and the whatever, right? Because I just watched a bunch. So, and it's kind of like that with like purchase decisions. But I was blown away by how OpenAI like just annihilated that, just did an incredible job. And I'm like, Google, like, where are you? I used to search Google for this kind of stuff. And like, this was just, it's like untouchable. It's you're screenshotting products and it's giving you the breakdown, like cross referencing like 6 different websites and like ratings and rankings on all those websites.
That's
What are
the
your
thing.
thoughts?
That's the thing. Search is like, I mean, Google search just by in the same way everybody like you always think Facebook is dead, but then it turns out there's still like a half a billion people using
Yeah,
Facebook,
yeah.
right? So it's one of those things. But there was this great chart. I think it was it may have been in the information or something like that. But like interest over time based on like search results and stuff like that. Poor Google, it's probably taken from Google. But like OpenAI is like it looks like the Himalayas, right? It's like all and literally the Google the search results for things like Bard, it just looks like a sea level kind of event, right? They just haven't even sparked any interest. And again, they have
Yeah.
so much data that I'm not worried about that, but I guess I am. Again, I'm not worried about Google at all. But a couple of things. First of all, OpenAI is just eating their lunch. By the time Gemini comes out, there'll be more news about GPT-5 or something like that. But the
Mm-hmm.
other thing is in the sneaky stuff, right? It's in the cloud stuff, right? And right now they're losing share on cloud too. They're losing their sales are going down. Microsoft is selling more and more of their cloud, and that and chips and things like that is when really just tons of money is going to be making. Also, Google, don't sort of like put aside the fact also that like Google with ads, like that's a Google revenue source is ads. Like how do ads work now with large language models, everything like that. So I guess with AI applied, I think what we're kind of thinking about a lot, you and I talk about, Jaden, is the fact that if something pops up that nobody knows about, it's like we want to direct your attention to this. Don't worry about AI FOMO. Like we got you covered. Like we're going to sure point you in the right direction. And at this moment, Jaden, I don't think that either one of us in good conscience can be like, ah, Bard is crushing it or something like that. I still feel like
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI is the way to go. No.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, the more I think that they came up with a really good model. Number one,
Yeah.
they first off got you as a brand ambassador to shill GPT for premium every single episode. So like, they did something right there. But this is the model that I think OpenAI crushed and Google's going to struggle with. I freaking hate ads. I have YouTube Premium because I never want to see an ad on YouTube. It's my least favorite thing in existence. And when I accidentally am logged into the wrong Gmail account or the Google account and I see an ad on YouTube, it's just like it's painful. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know that probably sounds snobby or whatever, because I'm sure not everyone makes that sort of probably a poor life choice. I don't know. Anyways, Google relies on ads. OpenAI is $20 a month, and I'm getting an incredible breakdown on 2 products for like free, other than my $20 a month. And like, what does Google make off me in ads every month? Like, I try to never click on an ad, but I guess I sometimes accidentally see them on YouTube. Like, so they're making some sort of money off of me. But like,
Mhm.
is it $20 a month? Is it more? I'm sure they make a lot more on some people. I'm probably an anomaly on the chart, but like they rely on ads. And so I'm concerned, how do they monetize Bard? They throw ads in there, then it doesn't feel trustworthy. I trust OpenAI's response, even though I'm sure there's ways people are figuring out to try to hack it or game it or get their products featured on it, whatever they try to do. I trust it because there's no ad in there. I just asked it between two things and it goes and reads reviews and it tries to like come up with like a response. So I think that's where Google's going to struggle if they really heavily rely on their ad model forever. That's going to be tough because like at the core people don't like ads, obviously. Like no one wants to see an ad. Sometimes you see useful ads and it's like I know Mark Zuckerberg whenever he talks about it, he always puts this positive spin on like sometimes people just really like to see an ad that's going to help them solve a problem and we're like helping them. And I'm like, okay, whatever, Mark Zuckerberg, like,
Yeah,
sell
yeah,
your
yeah,
own stuff. That makes sense. You'll have that opinion, but or he goes to the angle of we're helping so many small businesses get the word out about their okay, so whatever. Like I get it, okay?
I
There's
I
some people
guess, I guess. I love this take though. This is also where I wanted to go on this, which is because I talk with a lot of digital marketing teams and things like that, and the question I get asked over and over again is like, what happens to SEO, right? Search engine optimization. Like, is that going? Because people have entire, as you know, like teams around this. People have been steeped in SEO for so long. What happens with that? But I think you're exactly right. I think it's the trust issue. And if you know that when you're using OpenAI or Perplexity or something like that, it's giving you links and not sort of ranking them because somebody paid more, somebody put exactly the right keywords in there or something like that. That's a friction that I never knew I wanted to go away in my life. Is that like just trying to sort of like navigate the ads? I never even click on like this. It has like a sponsored thing. I'm
mm,
just on purpose. I never click on that, even if
yeah,
literally that's what I want. I'm just like, no, screw you.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's sort of like, I think what Google is the problem with Google right now is that they've given some daylight to competitors. They gave a ton of daylight to OpenAI, forget about it. But they've just given daylight and they had a stranglehold on the market. And even with Microsoft Copilot tools, like I don't use Outlook and things like that, but like I'm seeing what they're doing. I'm like, that's actually like pretty useful. So I think that they're just giving an opening, and I feel like that all is in stark contrast to Meta, which is quietly crushing it these days. And I love the whole like llama emu theme kind of thing. And Jaden, I don't know if you saw sort of like the latest. I'm trying to remember what day this came out. It's this week for sure, but I get confused. But like this emu edit and emu video, and it's just it's getting talked up, and I haven't obviously the stuff is still in development, so I haven't messed around with it or anything like that. But obviously, emu edit is you can imagine it's an editing tool for images and does all sort of like the usual things. But the difference, and again, so it's like Mid-Journey, Stable Diffusion, etc. It was trained on like a lot more. But here's the thing: so it can do things like, and I think Adobe does some good things like this, like and Canva is doing like turn the dog into a panda or something like that, and it will recognize the dog, and that's awesome. But one of the really cool things is that it focuses on making the changes that are really relevant to the edit request, and that to me is like the holy grail. Instead of like starting over, that's amazing. And emu video, just on that, it's like a runway competitor, right? I mean, but it's supposed to be better with fidelity and all that kind of stuff. But it's the kind of 4-second videos, but same thing. Like the control is where Meta seems to be going, and that actually feels like a real differentiator. I don't know if you've read much about this stuff.
I mean, I've looked into it briefly. My one thing I'll say is while it's definitely cool and actually, big, tip of the hat to Meta for coming out with all these open source models, a lot of really cool tech. Like they're very integrated in AI. Of all the companies I could criticize Meta's for like AI and innovation, like Meta's not going to be one of them because they're arguably like not I don't know. I don't want to say they're not like it's not like their product they're not making money from it. So obviously it's not their core product, right? Their core product is ads, but or like social media, whatever, right? But so it wouldn't seem like their core product, but they're crushing it. So I don't have a lot of criticism. The one thing I'll say though is when people say Emu's better at high fidelity video, whatever, than Runway or whatever, I'm always a little bit skeptical when the new or open source or unreleased or research project version of something is talked up as better than the production version because it's like, okay, cool, get it into production, let users try it. Because by
Yeah.
the time you do, maybe what's already in production will get better too. So it's just like whoever is the best in production thing is who I say like gets the gold medal. And if someone wants to put something else in production that it can be actively used and like scaled to the masses, I'm willing to say, okay, you're the new first place winner. But until that happens, I always kind of withhold judgment because it's easy to, I don't know, it's easy to cherry pick a little data and a couple examples in a demo to show how cool something is. But until it's like actually being scaled up and a lot of people are using it, an interesting example of that is Canva.
Yeah.
I really think Canva is like crushing it with a bunch of their like AI tools, like image editing stuff that they have
Agreed.
in there. I use them all the time. They're
all the
like
time.
background removers, and they're you just like, and like, oh, they're fill, they're auto fill. So like if
Mhm.
it cuts the top of my head off, in fact, anyone listening to this podcast, if you see the picture of Connor, the top of
Yeah,
his head was cut off in his original photo, and it has
good old
been
Canva.
reborn thanks to
Canva gave
Canva.
me yeah, it made it from, like, a Frankenstein thing to a normal person.
So anyways, yeah, I'm always like, I'll always give credit to those companies, but it's definitely interesting to see how that rolls out. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I mean, like, you're absolutely right about Canva. Like, Canva is one of those things where it exceeded what I thought it was gonna be, right? Canva is the AI tools built into Canva are absolutely extraordinary. If you're not using Canva, you do, and that's the other thing about AI applied, right? Is that don't sort of, like, go out looking for all these new tools. I'm telling you, if the company is big enough, if they're well capitalized enough and everything else, they are going to have these incredible tools built in. I mean, Zoom is has stuff built in. Canva has stuff built in. Just look for your tools. There's no need to go out and try to don't get overwhelmed, folks. Don't get overwhelmed on this. And even with this, like Meta right now, it's all open source and they're getting a lot of, kudos for that and all that kind of stuff. And I totally agree. I think Meta, I'm with you. I can't criticize Meta for anything. Now, this is not sort of, they're not a nonprofit, right? So they're going to start integrating this stuff into Facebook, into Instagram. And if you can, start using this, then think about people who are like just taking selfies, posting it on Instagram. They're not necessarily steeped in the AI world, but if you can just show them like, hey, now you can, that thing in the background, you can just do that really easily. And it has, just an easier to use system, or you can sort of, it's better at like picking out an object and removing that object. That's where Meta is really going to crush it. If they are going to, and they're doing what Google was not doing, right? They are taking their things like Facebook, Instagram, all these things, and just like they're ahead and they're just running hard, right? They're not giving anybody else a chance to sort of like catch up with that. And that I have to kind of just like really respect.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. And to the listener, if there is, crazy capabilities and tools, Connor and I try to test out everything. We'll try to keep you up to date on what's out there. And yeah, don't get FOMO. Don't get stressed out that there's so many advancements and so many things happening. We'll keep you up to date. Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast today, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.